Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to talk about Jenkins Architecture's problem area where what you used to face that in before Jenkins, uh, once it was not there like in manual build and deployment and CI, CD and CT followed by that in once we have a Jenkins, then what problem is going to be solved and how many Jenkins mastered and node we need. We'll talk into that in upcoming lectures. So let's go and talk one by one. So in earlier age, if you remember, like once you are not using that in even though now also, if you are not going to use that in any CI tool, then what will be happen? Let's say you have a number of developer, for example, Java, for considering the Java applications, you have a Java developer 1, Java developer 2, Java developer 3. They are doing some development code with like same branch, which is code repository, and they are doing that in their files like additions, modifications and deletions, whatever they want, especially in the code, and then they checking that in their code into the repository. What happened after, let's say, users developer one did the some change, developer two did some change, and developer three did some changes, where there is some conflict in case of calling the method, or like there was miscommunications, and just consider there is one method name where got changed, and that code is there in the repository. What happened next day, or like in same day, someone is doing the manually deployment, like in making a build on that in the build server manually, and then he is doing the deployment to the dev, test and prod. In that case, what happened, there is a possibility, maximum possibility to come to know that issue bit later, which will be cause that in actual deliverable in the productions delay, because we are not doing that in real time. For example, if developer one will be do some code changes in same time, if one will do the build and do that in deployment in dev or test, so it will be take a long time. Similarly, for this is just a case of a dev 1 to 3. What happen if there is a 85 members or hundreds member working in the same project? So in that case, it's a hard it's a like the problem high level we have, which is the manual involvement, time taking human issue, generally used to forget that in some of the step, and then we need to start from scratch, and time taking, of course, integrations testing multiple code with a weekly or monthly release. In past we used to do that in monthly release, we accumulate that in all changes, and then we used to that make a build and do the deployment, and then we identify the issue, then again we go back, and then we realize, hey, these are the changes which were not expected, and due to that we are facing this issue. So let's talk in that in high level of CI/CD and CT. Then we'll start that in what problem solve that in Jenkins. So in continuous integrations, in a software engineering, continuous integration CI is the practice of managing all developer working copy to share machine several times a day. So like in Grady Bosch first proposed the term CI in his 1991 method, although he didn't advocate integrity server like in several times a day. But at least some thought processes started in 1991 by that in Grady Bosch. I'm sorry for the wrong pronunciations. And after that, just like next step is a continuous deployment. Is the software engineering approach in which software functionality are deliverable frequently throughout automated deployment. And then we have a CT. So in continuous testing also was originally proposed as the way of reducing waiting time for feedback to developers by introducing development environment triggers tested as more traditional development tested, trigger tested, and many more. So our main goal is that start doing the development, make the development code as a build and zip, and then do that in test into that in at least testing environment. Other than that in development, and come to know that in whatever feedback is there at the earliest to fix it instead of waiting for like in week or month to identify the issue, because day by day we are like in expecting more changes. So if you'll see that in here, like in a number of users is working like in developer or administrator, they are doing something. And finally, Jenkins is pulling the code from that Bitbucket, Maven, or like in doing that in some other activity, pushing the artifacts into the Nexus, calling that in Jenkins Ansible scripts for like in continuous reliability packet Terraform, and finally testing, and finally we are able to see that in code into the productions and non-productions environment or blue-green technology where we'll be able to see that in live website. So once the Jenkins introduced that in these ones, the problem is going to be solved. There's no manual interventions required. Once develop like in Java developer do that in some code changes, you have to just make a Jenkins pipeline job or any job, which will be trigger it out automatically or like on schedule basis, which is nightly build, and then it will be a start the doing the build in build server, and then it will be do the deployment in that in a development test and productions whatever's configured accordingly. And similarly for like in Java developer 2 and 3, that is a one condition. Second conditions, let's say all developer is doing that in their code and they push that in code repository server. In Jenkins will be a start doing the build in nightly. It will be collect the all code, make a build, unit test, and so on and so forth, and then make a war file, year file, or jar file, and then publish into the respective environment. So here we will have a now we are removing that in manual build and deployment, so that will be taken care about by that in a Jenkins. Similarly, Jenkins will be also called that in a testing job also, for just write that in JMeter or Selenium or whatever protected test case and configure into the Jenkins. It will be execute the jobs after deployment, and it will test and generate the report and send that in email to respective team. So in that case, Jenkins will be help it out, but in this architecture, it is not fulfilling that in 100%. But yeah, this is the initials one is okay, where we have here like in one applications, like in tools called Java, like in development tools. Java software development tools. In that case, a number of developers is putting their code into the repository, and the Jenkins is pulling that in configuring only one build server like in Maven. But what happen if the nature of the applications will be changed like in Java, .NET or Python or many more? In that case, this scenario will be not work. In that case, we need a multiple node, and in one Jenkins master it will be called that in a multiple, where we'll have a build server for Maven, build server for .NET, and many more. So that one I'm going to talk into that in next lectures, but just consider this is the initials one once we are going to start. Even though there is a one scenario will become like in one Jenkins master is not sufficient, then how we are going to do that in multiple Jenkins master with a multiple nodes. Then we'll talk into the more details, and that's all about in this lectures. And let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.